that there's been some American foundations that fund Council of Canadians, that help fund Council of Canadians, but I know at the same time there's,
we get no American Foundation money for any of this kind of work. The only money we've ever received is for our human right to water work at the United Nations.
But that's just not true. That's Maud Barlow of the Council of Canadians. You know them from the big fights of the 1980s. They were basically anti-American, against free trade with the United States, against testing U.S. cruise missiles up here. But they've fallen in love with America, or at least American money. Tax filings by U.S. left-wing foundations show the organization has accepted more than $1.6 million in U.S. funding over the last 10 years. $45,000 from the extremist Rockefeller Brothers Fund, $50,000 from the California-based CS Fund. Our friend, parliamentary reporter Daniel Prusalides joins us with more now from Ottawa. Daniel, you went right up to Maud Barlow and said, what about all this U.S. dough? And she said, no, it doesn't exist. What's the truth?
Well, here's the thing. She says that this funding, it's $1.6 million between 2003 and 2012, according to tax filings in the U.S., this is publicly available information, is just for her work on water issues and was work that she did mostly in the United States. Now, if you go grant by grant, a lot of it is indeed listed as water work or water as a human right, that sort of stuff, or things that she had done at the UN with regard to water, but some of it isn't. In fact, there's about $45,000 from the Rockefeller brothers that was for something called Earth jurisprudence. I'm not sure what that is. It could have to do with water. It could be another issue altogether. Another $50,000 donation from CS Fund in 2009. That had nothing to do with water. It was about the according to the actual grant, it was to foment resistance to the North American Security and Prosperity Partnership. That was something that Canada, the U.S., and Mexico were trying to negotiate back in 2009. Ultimately failed, but it was replaced in 2011 by the Beyond the Border Initiative, the perimeter security agreement between Canada and the U.S. I don't think that includes Mexico. And while that may include some issues around water, it's not really focused on water. That initiative was about trade and security issues and harmonizing regulations between Canada and the United States. You know,
I've been frustrated for a long time, Daniel, about these so-called Canadian groups that claim to be grassroots and all Canadian, but they're not grassroots, they're AstroTurf. They're fake grassroots because their roots are in the United States and big foundation money. Here's what gets me about the Council of Canadians. Their name. They're called the Council of Canadians, but if you follow the money as you have, the money goes through California and New York. I think they should change their name. I don't think that's truth in advertising. Do you think they're still living off a reputation as defenders of Canadian sovereignty, past the point where it's even accurate for them to call themselves Canadian? I mean, when your paymasters are in the States, how can you call yourself an all-Canadian crew?
Well, I mean, they have their name. They actually, I did ask Maud Barlow about the nationalism of the Council of Canadians, and she denied that they were nationalists at all. She simply says they're against corporate interests or foreign corporations having control of Canada. That's her take on the issue.
But the Rockefeller brothers, I mean, that Rockefeller money came from the largest capitalist in all time, John D. Rockefeller, who, if you adjust for inflation, his wealth was $300 billion. He owned all the oil companies, Exxon, Mobil, Chevron, ConocoPhillips. He owned them all. There's a little bit of irony about an anti-corporate Canadian flag draping group called the Council of Canadians taking oil money from America. I mean, you were keeping your cool and you were asking great, real repertorial questions. I would have just had my jaw dropped and said, how can you take that money with a straight face, Maud? What else did she tell you?
Well, you know, she says that as far as they're concerned, almost all of their funding comes from grassroots Canadians. Now, I was at an event where Maud Barlow was. That's where we caught up with her yesterday at a theater in Ottawa, where she was talking about the Energy East pipeline and basically the attempt by the Council of Canadians and other organizations to shut down the oil sands. They don't make a secret of it by blocking pipeline routes. If you block the arteries, you cause a heart attack, essentially, and that's what they're trying to do. That was what the event was all about on Sunday. And she says, look, most of our funding comes from grassroots Canadians. They even passed around baskets, almost like being in church, where they pass around the donation basket, and they were collecting donations from the, I don't know, I would guess maybe 100 people that showed up to this event. I don't know how much they collected. It would have just been sort of informal cash donations, but that doesn't really compare to the $1.6 million over 9 years that they would have collected from American Foundation.
You pass the hat, church style. I mean, I remember the old Reform Party. They would pass around those Kentucky Fried Chicken buckets.
Yeah.
People put in $5 or $10. That may be paid for the meeting itself. It wouldn't pay for the campaign. Danielle, I think this goes a lot deeper. I mean, I think she was putting on a brave face and sounding very confident and cool, but I bet there's a lot more dough coming across the border than just for water. I think we're wise to be skeptical that it was just for, and even if it was for water issues, they should change their name for the Council of Americans in Canada. Last 30 seconds to you, Daniel.
Well, you know what? What's interesting to me, and what I found the most interesting, is one thing in Maud Barlow's favor is I frankly was expecting a much more hostile reception. It's not like they didn't know we were from Sun News, but Maud Barlow, to her credit, did give me some of her time, and she answered the questions from her perspective. The one thing that I found a little bit odd is I did ask her about that 2009 donation with regard to fomenting resistance to this Canada, U.S., Mexico partnership, and she flat out denied that anything that there was any connection to anything other than water issues. That one might be a little bit hard to swallow, but maybe she just didn't remember.
Yeah, well, you're a very charitable man, Daniel Pruselides. Thanks for going there into the lion's den for us. Appreciate your time.